Hey, so good to be here today. This is one event that I was really looking forward to because we're talking about life here. We're talking about what concerns us. So even though we called it a men's kind of program, it's even our sisters, our ladies are welcome. But this is conversations with multicultural men. We do know that there are some specific contexts that concerns culturally diverse people, but hey, this is not meant to be exclusive. Um, so the topic today is talking demystified, talking demystified. And I am so blessed to have this gentleman joining me today. It's not the first time we're having a chat, hosting a platform together like this. Last time was very brilliant. Well done to Victor for hosting that. But today I have two men that I respect a lot. I appreciate their passion about this subject matter, and they're men as well. So I think they're very qualified. First, I have Victor. Victor, as we popularly call him, Vicolo.
Yeah.
He is so relevant to this topic today because he's also a comedian, and comedians talk. So I'll be keen to hear Victor's perspective about the topic today. But Victor is also a social worker. He is a champion of this cause. In the past 1 or 2 years, virtually every program regarding this matter, somehow or event, I see Victor there. He is putting his heart where he's putting his work and his hand where his heart is. So,
Mm.
Victor, thank you so much for taking the time to share this platform with us today. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It's always interesting to see you at event and also talk to you and talk about these sensitive matters. I really appreciate you making this time for us.
Thank you, Victor. We are in this together, so it's really every one of us that's doing this. And I also have Gome. Gome is a professional colleague. Both of us, we are both members of the Australian Counselling Association, the premier association for counseling. But he knows that today we're not in a therapeutic mode. This is a community event. But Gome I met people recently, but when I met this guy, I know that it's somebody I want to connect with ongoing basis. He has quite some depth. He's a practicing counselor, mainly around the youth space. He's done some work about youth. And I know that he runs his own private practice. So Victor, sorry, Gome, thank you so much for coming here today. Say hello to our people.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. It's always an honor and a pleasure to talk about things that pertain to who we are as men. So I really appreciate the invite. And yeah, likewise, we had a lovely coffee catch up, and I walked away with a sense that, this is a man that I want, in my life in whatever
Mm.
capacity. So I appreciate the follow from, some of our chats in the past.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gome. Please, like I said, this is a topic today. It's loaded. Talking demystified, and we need to set the context here. Talking could mean different things to different people. But what we are saying about this talking, because of the context of this event, this is November month where there's a movement to really talk more about mental health and other men's health challenges. Um, and it's also the Ember month coming to December. We know the challenges that come this period when people have to take stock about the end of year, the highs and the lows, the losses. I had a big share of loss this year. And these two men here, they supported me during my bereavement. So it's that part of the year when men, particularly, and everybody for that matter, you're taking stock, you're checking how you're progressing life. And unfortunately, for some people, it becomes triggers. And there has been researches that shows that during this December, New Year, end of year kind of period, the rate of mental health challenges seem to be on the rise. So that's why we're bringing this program here today. And one of the secret weapons to all these, we believe, is talking. But at the same time, it seems to be the serious barrier that men have. So I just want to bring you guys in there. So talking about this time of the year, Gome and Victor, what do you think? Why do you think uh, it is a serious time of the year and they need to have this kind of conversation? You may have some kind of sort of experience, people you work with about this period. What do you think? Can I start with you, Victor?
Um, this year is one of the most sensitive year where you are trying to also identify what have I achieved throughout the year and what is my goal throughout the year, what have I been able to achieve. And I would like to streamline my answer to men who are outside their home country, who are in places like Australia. And this is the time of the year where you also have a lot of responsibilities from family back home, requesting for items or support to say send something back home. And looking at our history of migration, there might be concerns around a man's identity, not being able to achieve that. And because of our sense of ego and pride and trying to do whatever we want to do to let them think that everything is going on well, even when it's not going on well, we could go extra mile to do that.
Mm,
And to be honest, we have already identified that we don't like talking about anything mental illness. Because if you don't have, they say you're not hardworking, they say you're not productive, they can start comparing you with other people in London, other people in America, and say, look at what this one did. Where is you? What about you? Your uncle, your brother are sending this money. So there's a lot of things going on in December, November, October. And
mm,
you'll be shocked that one of the highest time of suicide is around Christmas period where
mm,
people
mm.
just end their life before the new year. And these are the things that is shocking. And
Yeah.
Christmas is meant to be a celebration time where people relax, but it's not usually so.
Yeah, I mean, Victor, I'll just hold out. I know you still have a lot to say there, but you've already opening some very hot topic and the spike in mental illnesses and challenges during this period. Can I bring in Gomez? Gomez, this period, why? I know Victor already touched some areas, but is there something you want to add there? Because that's why we are doing this topic now. We could do this every time of the year, but there's something about the Ember month. I remember that's what it used to be called. So what do you think, Victor? Sorry, Gomez.
Yeah, I think Victor's done a brilliant job at summarizing a lot of the issues that we face. Um, I think a lot of people take stock at the beginning of the year and they figure out what do I want to achieve by the end of the year. And so it really becomes a question of have I done everything that I said I was going to set out to do? But I think a huge part of it is um, just the issue around identity,
Mm,
understanding who we are, but also understanding what success looks like. What does it mean
mm,
for us to be men? And,
mm,
I've been fortunate enough to come back home. So I'm actually signing in from Zambia after being away for 21 years. And I can see how, exactly what Victor's talking about. the concept of you're a man who's gone overseas. What have you achieved? What have you been able to achieve? Unfortunately, what we do in terms of defining that success is we make it about material stuff.
Yeah.
Or we make it about um, achievement from whether it's an athletic, but it's really governed by cultural expectations. And I think those expectations are expectations that we'll never really be able to achieve. Every time you hit a milestone, the goalpost kind of moves a bit forward. And so even people that set goals for the year, they get to the end of the year and they may have achieved those goals, but they realize there's still an emptiness inside. I think the emptiness is indicative of the fact that we just don't define ourselves correctly to start with. We define ourselves from a position of competence, and that competence can either be about our job or about our ability to, like I said, athletic prowess or other things that just don't really fulfill what our true needs are as men. So I think that needs to shift.
Wow, we're already touching quite a few things here, guys. I just want to say that there are some people really staying with us here. Please, this conversation is not meant for Victor Gomez and Ephraim alone. Feel free to chip in anytime. For example, we already have Audion saying it's questions, comment allowed during the course of the program or at the end. Please, Emmanuel, anytime. We want people to be part of the conversation. We'll rather have your comment and discuss it rather than bringing things we plan to bring here, because this is a community effort and we really want you to be part of it. So thank you so much, Emmanuel, for being with us. And I know that it's not just Emmanuel alone. There are a few people already online. Please let us know you're there. Tell us where you're watching from in case you're outside Australia. We just want to acknowledge you because it's a community effort. We are all in this together. And we appreciate, just going back to what Emmanuel said, we appreciate your participation. It's a conversation. It's not a monologue or just only a kind of three-way conversation between us. We are just facilitating. So I'll come back to the real point. Just hopefully we set the tone now. When we talk about talking here, because talking could mean different things. We're not here to gossip. We're not talking to gossip. We're not talking to put down our sisters or our wives or our female in our own sphere of influence. No, the kind of talking we mean here, and I think Gome already flagged something. Despite the way success has been shared to us over time and culturally, some of us still feel emptiness. We still feel empty. And sometimes that is a trigger for you to share, to talk. So that is what we are really after here, talking in that sense. But can I just first of all bring you guys in here? So when we talk about talking, what are some myths around talking that prevent men from talking? Because I shared something earlier on, guys. If we don't talk when we need to talk, God forbid. And I know that's a heavy statement. If we don't talk when we need to talk, I took us back to birth. When a child is born, if that child don't cry, remember in my culture, you see even doctors will start, trying to get some voice out of that child, because it's not a good sign if that child does not cry. And we know at some point in time in life, guys, we become like children. We need to talk. We even need to cry sometimes. So why is it that men don't talk? Can I bring you in here first, Victor, please?
I think I'll look it from the point of the cultural perspective, or what we tag as culture. I'm talking from that point because when you grow up in an area where you have been told, man, you're strong, man, you are capable, man, you are the breadwinner, you are the provider, you are this, you are the that. And this is across almost all the code background. It's very impossible to now bring in a man that is crying, because we identify crying as being weak. So when you cry, you're weak. And then coming into Australia, for example, you discover that if you don't have the ability to be humble, you get to a workplace and your boss is a woman. And because of your ego, you don't know how to ask questions, you don't know how to learn, you are new to new environment, you don't even know how to complain, you use angry voice. Because I can tell when um I can see my own life shifting little bit by little bit. I emulated some patterns that was not sustainable in the long run in the culture like Australia, where I'm trying to make a point and I'm raising my voice. But it's not like I'm angry, but I'm trying to make a point. But in Australia, they say you are angry. And then in your work environment and like that, if you don't unlearn what you think you know before, you get in trouble. Then job is unsustainable. And also men don't talk because we come from a culture where we compare material stuff. What car are you driving? How many houses do you have? Uh, where are you working? What is your job? Even to marry, I remember this might be funny. When I came to Australia, I I went to a particular church and thinking that, but the pastor of the church was saying, some of you are in our church to get our women. And I'm like, oh. And I thought it was a general message until the man came to me with microphone. You are in our church to get our women. And after the church, the woman asked me, what is your job? I said, I'm working in HK. I'm a HK carer. She looked at me from up to down. She evaluated my life right in my front. And I discovered that I'm a carer. And then she's telling me, you see, my daughter, she works in this company, she's this big, she's this, that. She's actually in this country now. She just came for a visit. She's international. And I'm there looking, okay. She asked me this particular question. Are you doing that kind of age care that you wipe bum or you clean stuff like that? So in my head, if I was very worried, these are the things that drew men into doing online scamming. These are the things that say, well, you want to see who I am, you want to see my identity. So identity again is attached to material stuff. You see? And that really broke me down at that point. And I'm talking from a religious leader. You see? And these are the things. And I'm like, imagine another person that is not emotionally capable to handle that.
It's true. I think, Victor, I know you may still have a few points to bring in there later, but let me just also bring in Gome now. Gome, I mean, you are a practicing counselor. And I know that we're not being therapeutic on this platform right now. It's all about community event, but you've seen clients over time, and I'm sure if you take statistics now, I don't need to ask you how many multicultural men and even young men have come to you for counseling. But why do men not talk when they need to talk? Of course, we're not trying to turn men to another thing here. We know we have our personality, go men. We know that men sometimes reflect, we reflect too much sometimes, but when we need to talk, why don't we talk? Gome, what do you think?
Yes, I suppose what I'm hearing in the question is, why don't we talk about things that matter? Because I think we talk a lot as men,
Mm,
but it's the
mm,
quality of the conversations that I probably have issue with. But also, like you're saying, it's about when we talk. I think one of the greatest reasons is probably that we're afraid of revealing how we really feel about
mm,
ourselves. I feel like there's a deep seated fear of being seen and not being appreciated. And I think that goes back to that whole thing around identity. So if people see me as I really am, without all the material stuff, without all the awards and the accolades, if people see me as I am, um, what will they think of me? And I think a lot of that comes from what we think about ourselves a lot of the time. So if I feel
mm,
unsuccessful, if I feel incapable of being a good man in relationship with a woman, then we suspect that other people will see. And one of the vehicles for people to see us is through conversation. And so we're very particular about the things we talk about. We're very comfortable talking, but we're very comfortable talking about things that we feel in control of, but not so much revealing places where we feel inadequate or where we
mm,
don't feel
mm,
like we've got enough substance. And a lot of the time, that's primarily around our relationships with women, because that's where we get undone a lot of the time. So, if they see me as I am, what will they really think? And how will I really rate amongst other men from that perspective?
wow. And I know that we're just, for time's sake, we're just chipping in limited numbers here of this myth and this why men don't talk. Again, like I said, this is meant to be a conversational thing. Let me bring in some thoughts, and I think it's really great to see that some guys are involved here. Yeah, we've seen this before. Uh, Shege from Perth. Thank you, Olusegun Shege, for being with us. Thank you. We appreciate you. Uh, Emmanuel, watching from Perth. I think mental issue with men is all year round, every day, any day, especially while we are away from home, which bring pressure and weight on us as men. Good point. Thank you, Emmanuel. Again, Emmanuel, again, one big reason we as men don't speak out is the male ego and pride. Good point. And also, Shage is saying that I think also not feeling comfortable with a person that can help. I think this is a good point I would like us to revisit later. Gome, I mean, professionally, you know that it's a common saying. Why should I talk to that small girl? Why should I talk to, like you as a professional? One elderly man may feel, what will Gome have to say to me? It's very
Yeah,
common, and
yeah.
again, it's a cultural thing. We're not dispensing it off, but we need to demystify it. And I think I would like us to come back to that point later. And then Francis, I believe talking song was interconnected to emotional intelligence and wisdom. As a migrant, I feel that men need to undergo some form of emotional reawakening. It's also important to know who we are talking to. That same point came up again. Who are we talking to? What's the perception about that? And I think since that has come up, again, that is one of the myths I want us to really talk about, because this topic is demystifying talking. Because the more we can talk about this issue, maybe it will help. Why is there substance around that myth? Who is this small girl? What like a marriage counselor that is not married? What does it have to say to me? I, I know, I know Gomez is raising that, and I think this is real. Culturally, it's a barrier to talking. But I want us to unpack it a bit. Before I come to profession, because I know Gomez is professional, but let me talk about Victor. First of all, Victor, do you feel this way? And what do you think about that? I call it a myth, but I think it's real. What do you think?
I think I look at it from a different point of view. For example, I've worked in child protection. I've seen cases where the mothers are saying, I don't want someone that is young and doesn't have any experience of a child to give me advice. And if you look into that kind of perspective, again, you will know why they are talking like that. But in the point of, again, we come from a hierarchical point of family where you have to respect your elder brother, you have to respect your elder sister. So if you're the last one, there's a lot of people you have to respect. So before respect comes to you, nobody even listens to you in the family, except again, if your finance is high. You see? And this is the problem. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves. So if you are the firstborn and your finance is low respect might go to you because you don't have the finance. If you are the last born and your finance is high, more respect goes to you. Like in my situation, family of 6, I have to call my brother, elder brother, his name, Brother Tunde, and other kids have to call me Brother Victor, Brother Femi, Brother this. Now, I have the sense of responsibility that I owe them responsibility to be responsible. So when I even want to become irresponsible, I think about that. So now, when an elderly cultural man comes to services in Australia, and then they're like, who is my case coordinator? Someone that just finished 3-4 years ago without experience. Again, the person is thinking, who are you to give me advice about anything?
Yeah,
So
good point there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Victor, I think there's so much about this point. You really unpack it there. This is not limited to counseling or medical field. It cuts across. You're just talking about community work. You know, who is that case officer? What does he know to tell me about how to care for my children? You know, but it's good. What we also have a practicing professional online and on this platform right now, and I'm sure Gome, you've had this experience. Even if you have not, you have colleagues that have had it. So, what do you think? What is it? Is this real? Is it a real concern? And what is the way around it so that we can talk more?
Yeah, and I definitely think it's a very, very good point. I currently work out in the regional areas of WA working with farmers. A lot of these guys are a lot older than me, a lot more experienced. I know nothing about farming, but I'm a counselor. But what they want to know a lot of the time is, you know, what do you know about me? And me is a farmer. And so I think probably 2 things that I want to point out. The first thing is that the value in talking is not about getting advice. And I think culturally, unfortunately, we've been kind of hardwired for advice. So we go to people typically when we want advice. When I think about talking, I don't think about it in terms of what do I need to hear back. I just feel like talking in this context is about being able to express something that's on your heart to a safe person, someone who's relatively safe and that can hold whatever you're sharing with them. And the power is in the sharing rather than in the advice. So I think that's probably one of the biggest points I want to make in that particular context. The second thing is, I think we need to be authentic. When I go to the farmers, I'm not pretending I know about farming. You know, as a marriage counselor, I don't pretend I've got years of marriage experience to make myself credible. There's power in being open and honest and saying where we don't know things. You know, for me to go to a farmer and say, you know, I know nothing about the farms. Can you tell me a bit more about this? And it actually, what that actually does in that conversation is it takes away some of that power imbalance that Victor's talking about. So now you're not looking at someone based on a power process, but now all of a sudden you're equals. He has some knowledge that you don't have. You've got some, you know, I come in as a counselor. I have no knowledge on farming. You teach me about the farming world, and I can tell you some stuff about psychology and mental illness and all that kind of stuff. So all of a sudden, one is level playing field. And I think what that does is that creates relationship.
Yeah.
It creates real connection when a person feels that they're bringing something to the table as well, if you like. If I can use that term. So I think, yeah, there's deep power in being vulnerable enough to say, I don't know anything about your story, but you're the expert of your life. You're the expert of your story. So tell me, let me in. And then maybe I can share some, you know, certain skills or whatever I bring to the table. But that's kind of how I see it. I think that power dynamic is really important in building that sense of safety. Because when people feel that sense of safety, it encourages them to even speak more openly.
Yeah, I think you yourself and Victor, you brought out some key points around trying to demystify these, and I really like that current text on the screen. The power is in the sharing, you know, and really we have this cultural sort of is there that when we go to see someone, we want answers, we want a magic pill, we want advice, we want something that can change my life now. But really, life doesn't work that way. It's a journey, and I think the more we have this awareness, and I think we really need to bring this awareness into our communities, especially diverse communities, because we've come from that ground of when you are feeling, when you need answers, you go to one uncle that knows everything. Well, really, uncle does not know everything. Well, we've grown in that culture that uncle knows everything. Well, they don't, and that's why sometimes people are led astray. You know, so I think that point about and this barrier is there, is real, and I hear it very very regularly. Who is that person? What does he know? You know, marriage counselor, 21 year old unmarried telling me about marriage. You know, we know there's power in experience, we know that, but we also know that there are principles. It's in the sharing, it's in the partnership. You know, just like Gomez said, I don't know about marriage that much, but I have tools that can take you from one place to the next place, that can cause a shift, that can make you think and then be empowered. It's all about empowerment, actually. You know,
Can
so
I just add one thing to that?
please, Victor.
Um, in service provision area, for example, I think it's also quite important to match cases with staff or someone that the client is able to connect with, because some people still have the idea of they coming to seek help, and the first part of getting assistance is having the right connection. So that is why they're asking, the question here was, who am I speaking to?
Hmm.
So in the first glance of seeing who they're speaking to, they could actually connect or disconnect. And once they disconnect, it's very difficult for them to come back and get support or assistance. So imagine someone who is used to getting advice and being told what to do,
Hmm.
but actually in
Hmm.
the professionalism of Australia, casework,
Hmm.
counseling,
Hmm.
it's actually active listening and more like, okay, wow, tell me more. And then you, like my first counseling experience, I was like, what's happening here? Why is this person saying, okay, tell me more? So I was very shocked. And I was like, I want more information. This I'm telling you, react to the action I'm telling you. So this is another cultural shock for me. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Victor, for sharing there. And it's so powerful when we can, just like Gomez said earlier on, be vulnerable. And I think one of the big drivers, passion for me about this is, guys, we need to model talking to our next generation. I'm super concerned that we have so much quietness when people need to talk. And it's so powerful to hear Victor talk just now. My first counseling, I've had some shocks in my life recently as well, and I think I'm going through my third counseling session. In terms of 3 episodes, and maybe we'll come to the how later. But really, sometimes these help are valuable. They are. For example, some companies have this EAP thing. Sometimes they are begging staff to use them. They're begging them. We have EAP, we have counselors that you can talk to, but people don't take them up. So they are paying those people for nothing. So I think the more we begin to model, and it's not showing off, it's not as if I'm weak. And I know that we all have times in life where we become like that baby that needs to cry, that really, really needs to cry. And if that baby does not cry as a mother, you'll be worried, especially at birth. So we need to model this to the next generation. I still want to I know that there's so much, that's why this today's time is not enough to unpack everything, but we're just going to chip in a little bit. Can I just also say that we have 3 people at least that have just stayed with us on this platform. Please get involved. It's the knowledge is not limited to us here. Chip in something, maybe experience, please chip in something. Already we had Emmanuel Shege, and there was one other person that was online. I don't want to miss the person's name. And then Francis, please, guys, we really appreciate if you can chip in more. Can I bring in something here which is really a bit sensitive, but again, the elephant in the room we don't want to talk about as part of the effort to demystify and help men to talk. Now, and this is very common with cultures, multicultural people, if you hear that I have gone to see someone for mental health challenges, would you be willing to associate with me? Would you still be my friend? Can I take it to the next level? If your brother was going to marry into that family, would you not go back and tell them that, that family you are going to, someone is crazy there? And these are some things that actually shut people in, because of that stigma. Guys, how can we remove that stigma? How can we, uncover that beast? Because that is making people die under our watch, preventable deaths, because we're not talking, because of all the stigmas. And it's real, guys. So can I just, and like I said, it's a bit deep. Um, But what do you think? What can be done to dispel that situation? It may not be easy, but maybe a little bit of chipping in here. This time, let me start with Gomen. Gomen, what do you think? Because I think this is real.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely it is. And I think one of the things is really about, I think we spoke about in our last meeting about us not just talking about actually being vulnerable and modeling that ourselves. So, I really applaud you, Victor, for, sharing your own experience, because I think that that's part of the process of, destigmatizing it, mental
Mm,
illness,
mm,
is being able to say, I've seen a counselor myself and this is what
mm,
happened. I think a lot of the
mm,
time as well, people just don't know the process.
mm,
So I think being able to talk about what actually happens during counseling is important. Um, One of the biggest determining factors of success for people getting through mental illness challenges is their experience, the first experience. So I really love, Victor, that you brought up that as well, because that's really
mm,
significant. You know, people's ability to heal is really going to be determined by that first encounter they have. So it's really important that people have a good experience, at least initially. Um,
mm,
but your
mm.
question for me, and I think because I've been in this field for a while, it's like me saying, would you talk to someone if they went to the doctor after breaking their arm?
Absolutely.
For me, it's like, or, would you talk to someone if they took their car to the mechanic if it broke down? Or would you talk to someone, would you have a problem with your relative marrying someone because they went to the dentist because they had a cavity?
Mm, mm,
Um, I just feel like we need to start thinking about health holistically,
mm,
and that there is no real difference between physical illness and mental illness. And so, if I have an issue physically, I have no qualms about going to see a professional about it. And I think, similarly, if I have an issue with my mental health, I should have no qualms going to see a professional about it. I do think it's changing. So I definitely think the stigma is not the same as it was, but we've definitely still got a long way to go. And again, particularly with multicultural folk who are not typically used to it. When I first came to Australia and I was involved in Bible college, and everyone was into counseling and they're trying to get me to go into counseling, and I was like, why the hell would I go and talk to a stranger? Because from my perspective, if I have an issue, I talk to my cousins or my aunties, my uncles, people that are close to me. So the idea of talking to a stranger, I just could not conceptualize that. But my first experience just blew me away. And at that point I realized that there is something safe about talking to someone that you don't know. They might not spread, you might want to talk about really, really personal stuff, and that stranger has a professional commitment to confidentiality.
mm, mm,
In a lot of our cultures, what is confidentiality?
mm.
That we have relatives that are synonymous with CNN and all these other news networks. Immediately you reveal something, the whole village would know about it. So I think there is that aspect, that sense of being able to share stuff with someone um, who's not going to spread it around. But also the professional aspect around it is being able to speak to someone that knows um, how to deal with whatever condition you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So, it's like me going to talk to my mates about my toothache is not really going to help
Mm,
my tooth. I need to go and see a professional. And so there
absolutely.
is that aspect as well, the professionalism and the skill set that they have. These people who work in the mental health field study for years and years, and they're
Mm,
professional, they're qualified professionals. So they know what they're doing, just like, doctors and mechanics and dentists and all that.
yeah. 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 Thank you, Gomen. Victor, can I bring you here because I know it's a very hot sort of topic because you know where we come from. They said if you're going to get married, for example, look where, shine your eyes. how, what if you heard that a person's sister or relative had a mental health breakdown? These are things that actually, and again, it's the elephant in the room that sometimes we don't get comfortable talking about.
Mm.
So is there something we can do? Because it's real, guys. Let's face it, it's real.
Yeah, I mean, our upbringing is one of the things that we always have to put into perspective. Our environment, our myth about spirituality and what we consider as mental health, what we understand as mental health, is not something that has been communicated at all.
Mm,
Even if we look
mm,
back into the history of mental health in the world, anxiety, depression were treated as a very special disease where they have been locked up in a
yeah,
particular place.
yeah,
Schizophrenia, everything
yeah.
was like that. Was not was general in the whole world. Was not anything. People with
So
children
true.
with mental health are locked up in the room. They're not allowed to
Mm,
go outside.
mm, mm,
Back in the days in UK, in America, they were locked up in particular
yeah.
ward where, just giving food through the door, giving
Mm,
injection, as
mm,
simple as anxiety and depression.
mm,
The
mm,
world have not yet got to the point of addressing those issues in most African countries.
yeah.
They are
So true.
seeing, it's easy to see disability, physical disability, but
Mm,
it's not
mm,
easy to see mental disability.
mm,
Now,
mm,
the stigma is still there. It's still there, even till now. Over
mm,
here, even just that the government is putting so much words out there, so much training, so much education, which is not available back home.
yeah,
But now, if you go
absolutely.
online, you see a lot of people saying, "I'm depressed." People are killing them.
Mm,
People are ending their life
mm,
due to anxiety, depression, competition, and all these things.
mm,
There was a guy I spoke with recently after the first stuff we did, and he said he couldn't tell people that he was, he was admitted, and he had to stay in a mental ward for a couple of months because he was
mm,
scared of the stigma, what people would think
mm,
about.
mm, mm,
He explained his experience, and he said it's very, very awful.
mm,
And I was listening to him, and I was glad that he was able to voice out and even talk about it, to the
mm,
extent that he was really crying.
mm,
He was crying, and I had to cry with him to say,
mm.
"Wow, you went through
Wow,
this, and you just went off Facebook, went off
wow,
WhatsApp. No one could
wow,
connect with you, and now
wow,
he's back into working normally again."
wow,
So
wow.
imagine there was someone he could talk to because something significant changed in the brain. The brain could not process, and these are the things that we need to start talking about as people.
Mm, mm.
We need to
Yeah,
start speaking the word out and look. Yeah, I've been to counseling. I
yeah,
listen to messages. I read books. I even
yeah,
sometimes speak to
yeah,
government, speak to you.
yeah,
Try to
yeah.
make it a normal conversation. You know.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, Victor, again, I really appreciate the way this discussion is real. To be sharing, and it's good. Of course, we are professionals. You're not mentioning names, but to let people know that this is real. And just to re-echo what you just said, Victor, again, uh, stepping back a bit about counselor, good point. And I think Gome also mentioned this. Gome and I know that in terms of counseling, that first therapeutic connection is critical. If you don't establish that connection, you struggle. So good point, Shage. Shage followed with this comment just to agree with what Victor just said. We can't do too much in promoting this matter because I think Victor just highlight a few points. My mom used to work in a psychiatric hospital back in Nigeria, and when my mind goes back to how those patients were being treated at that time, because as a young person, I go to see my mom in the hospital, in the place of work. I see, and that thing stuck with me that if that is what mental health means, if that is what mental illness is, then I don't want to even talk about it. I don't want to, any person that I know is getting close to someone in the family is something, I will tell the person, wrong with your three legs if you can borrow one more. And this is the thing that is not helping matters. Even when we've come over to a place like this where thankfully the government is doing all the as much as they can to remove the stigma. For example, in the workplace, you can't afford to sack anybody because of mental health illness. You get in trouble right away. Discrimination against that. But I think we need to talk more about it. So thank you so much. I really like the way Shege is getting involved in this, talking more openly about it in Nigeria, other African societies. I believe will go a long way. So true, Shage. I think next time we may have to invite Shage to join us. He's really added some comments here today. Again, Francis, good points all around. We need to normalize. I like that word, normalize. Normalize the conversation. I think that's a typo there. Conversation around mental health. I have benefited a lot from counseling. I will always recommend it. So good. Thank you so much. I think we've had some good conversation here today. I knew that we'll not be able to finish this within a short time. I think this is something that we need to explore ongoing conversation around. It is so important, but we have such a short time to talk about this. While we begin to bring it to a close, I just want us to touch some significant points today. We can't talk about all this issue without discussing the how. I know we've touched a bit, but how can we help? Because at the end of this session, I will ask myself, what about why did you do what we just did? What now? If we cannot cause a bit of shift. So in the context of all we've discussed, guys, what are specific tips that we can put out there? Whoever hears this or see this later, individuals, community leaders. My heart is after young people. I feel that sometimes Gome and Victor, we have developed some resilience. That's why when we face identity challenges, somehow we're able to tap into that whole resilience, whether good or bad, we have it. What I'm concerned about our children, when they are exposed to the elements, I don't think they have that depth to be able to survive even if they don't talk. Some of us are surviving even when we don't talk. I'm not recommending it because I think sometimes there is an outburst, and that is why things happen. God forbid we hear of another suicide. Only when we've heard, we felt we could have done more. And I will know that the issue of suicide is complex. Nobody can be held super responsible for another person making that choice. But could there be something we could have done? And I'm particularly soft towards our younger generation who may not be able to survive the element, the pressure of the time, the social media issue, the competition, the peer influence, the the imagery out there. There's so much. So, as a parting, few comments, just maybe 1 minute each from each of you. I don't even know how to give you the direction, but what do you think that you can leave on the platform today? The same thing with you guys that have been with us. If there's any final comment, please. Can I start with you this time, Victor? What's I wish we could continue, but we don't have the
Mm.
time. As a parting comment, big one or two comments that you can leave behind that will keep going around the social media and will help someone.
I would say listen to your mate and read the sign, the pattern of that has changed. If you've noticed something has changed in their behavior, try to ask them, how is it going? Are you okay? What is going on? If they say they're fine, try to be more persistent. Don't just ignore and say, okay, bye. Try to be more, okay, please tell me more. Let's catch up for drinks. Let's catch up for dinner. I remember when I first met Gome, we actually went out for a drink. Even in our conversation, we were going too deep, like we were talking deep stuff. And I was like, I like this guy, you know? And apart from going out, even the drinking part, we were still able to get a lot of knowledge out of that
Mm,
one
mm,
meeting. Till
mm,
today, we're friends. We connect, even though we
mm,
don't talk every day, we still
mm,
connect. So check on your mates, ask them how you going. Do you want to catch up? Tell them you love them. Don't be too scared to say you love a guy. Tell them you care about them. You want to listen to them. That's
Oh, I think Victor, you've opened up a topic that is hard for men to talk about, even to ladies, talk less of looks like that. Recommend you want to add something, please.
Yeah, no, very well said, Victor. Um, I suppose from my perspective, I think it's important to go back to our identity, and especially in raising young kids, we need to start changing the narrative around what it means to be a man. I
Mm,
think ultimately we're relational beings,
mm,
and we find our true nature in deep connection with people.
mm,
And unless we do that, we'll keep chasing the wind, if you like, and keep having these, success, but still empty. So I think that's probably the one big takeaway for me is just
mm.
going back to identifying who we are as men and communicating that to the younger generation, showing them that it
Wow,
is okay to cry. It is actually strength to be vulnerable. It is strength to
wow.
reach out and ask for help when you need it,
Mm,
and not weakness like we've typically suggested. Um, I also think it's important that we, like I said, not just talk about it, but demonstrate that ourselves. We
mm,
need to be asking for help as well. One thing I love about Victor is I've always found him to be vulnerable. He always shares,
mm, mm,
his personal stories. And I
mm,
think part of
mm,
the reason people connect with you, Victor, even in your comedy, is that you're honest and you can speak deep truths,
mm,
even in
mm,
that kind of
mm.
forum of comedy. But that vulnerability is significant, and it's how
Yeah,
relationships are developed.
yeah.
Just one conversation with Victor, and I felt like I know the guy a lot more than guys that I've partying with for years, because there was a vulnerability around that conversation, a deep honesty and authenticity. And I think that word for me is just critical. Authentic, authentic, authentic. Let's be real. Let's be who we
Wow,
are, and
wow.
stop this thing about trying to impress people with material stuff that doesn't even matter at the end of the day.
Wow. Guys, I think just so also chipping there again, Shege has been fully part of this. Thank you, Shege. I just try not for this not to get past the 1 hour mark. Uh, this shouldn't stop here. There's so much we can do, but thank you so much, Gomen. Thank you, Victor, and
thank you.
hopefully we can keep talking about these. Guys, when you see this later, please send us your comment. Thank you, everyone. Well done.
Thank
See
you.
you later.
Thanks,
Thanks
Gome.
for
Thanks.
hosting, my friend.